Imagine achieving everything you've ever dreamed of. Fame, fortune, recognition worldwide, only to realize it leaves you completely empty inside. This was exactly the crisis Leo Tolstoy faced, one of history's greatest authors. After reaching the pinnacle of literary success, with masterpieces like War and Peace and Anna Karenina, Tolstoy felt an unbearable void, prompting him to embark on an intense journey to find life's true meaning. But what if I told you Tolstoy believed he actually found the answer? Today, we'll explore Tolstoy's profound inner struggle, his philosophical discoveries, and how his revelations might transform your own view of existence. Stick around, because this video might just change how you see your life forever. Leo Tolstoy was born in 1828 into one of Russia's most prestigious aristocratic families, destined from birth for greatness and privilege. From the very beginning, he enjoyed vast wealth, exquisite mansions, private tutors, and a future paved with opportunity. His exceptional brilliance was evident even as a child, and as he matured, this promise blossomed into legendary literary achievements. Novels like War and Peace and Anna Karenina elevated Tolstoy to global fame, securing him praise, wealth, and worldwide acclaim. Yet, despite all this opulence, admiration, and success, an unsettling emptiness lingered within him, quietly gnawing at his spirit. Beneath the glittering surface of his life lay a persistent, restless dissatisfaction that grew deeper with each achievement, revealing clearly that fame and fortune alone could never fill the inner void he desperately sought to understand. Tolstoy's youth was marked by excess. Parties, gambling, lavish dinners, and passionate romances filled his days and nights. He dove deeply into every possible luxury, testing each experience to the extreme. But each indulgence ended the same way, with an unsettling hollowness. It felt empty, like chasing shadows or drinking water that could never quench his thirst. Each pleasure he found lasted just a brief moment, fading quickly and leaving a deeper void behind. This dissatisfaction wasn't merely boredom, it signaled something far more profound. Tolstoy wasn't just another talented writer. He was a deeply introspective philosopher, tormented by questions most people preferred to avoid. Even at his happiest moments, he felt an invisible weight, a subtle whisper reminding him that something vital was missing. What he yearned for couldn't be bought or celebrated. It was intangible, elusive, buried somewhere within life's deepest mysteries. One haunting truth began to trouble him deeply. All his success, fame, and fortune were temporary. He realized, with a chilling clarity, that everything he'd worked for, his literary legacy, his wealth, his reputation, would someday fade into oblivion. The idea was terrifying. If nothing lasted, he wondered, what was the point of any of it? What was the meaning of fighting, striving, and suffering if in the end, every accomplishment would vanish? These questions gripped him with unrelenting force. The more Tolstoy pondered life's impermanence, the darker his world became. He wrote vividly in his diaries about the unbearable nature of existence once one understood its temporary nature. He asked himself repeatedly, why continue living? Why continue writing? Why raise a family or invest effort into anything when death ultimately erases it all? Each question carried immense weight, pressing upon him with crushing intensity. His mind, once a source of brilliance, became a battlefield of despair. Art, something Tolstoy had dedicated his life to, suddenly appeared equally futile. No masterpiece, no matter how celebrated, could prevent the inevitable march toward oblivion. All his creativity, wisdom, and genius couldn't silence the overwhelming realization that everything would someday vanish. Logic, reason, and intellect offered him no comfort. they only reinforced his despair. In this blackened emotional state, thoughts of suicide began to haunt him vividly. He spoke candidly of hiding ropes, weapons, and sharp objects from himself, fearing he might succumb impulsively to despair. The temptation to end the existential pain was very real, yet a quiet force deep within held him back. Something intangible, perhaps instinct or intuition, refused to let him give up entirely. Rather than surrendering to darkness, Tolstoy courageously decided to explore deeper, desperate to find something, anything, that could give life true meaning. He noticed, almost by accident, that certain people around him, especially peasants, servants, laborers, those living simple, humble lives, radiated contentment. Despite enduring poverty, back-breaking labor, and constant hardship, they somehow lived peacefully, even joyfully. Tolstoy was baffled. These individuals lacked his education, wealth, fame, and comfort, yet seemed far happier. Their peace disturbed him as much as it fascinated him. He began to observe them carefully, puzzled and intrigued. What did these simple, humble people know that he, a literary genius and intellectual giant, did not? After careful observation, the answer slowly emerged with surprising clarity. Their lives revolved around a simple, unshakable faith. Unlike Tolstoy, whose trust had always been anchored firmly in logic and reason, these individuals believed intuitively in something greater, something transcending rational explanation. Their faith wasn't rooted in complex philosophy or sophisticated intellectualism. It was profoundly simple, unwavering, and deeply emotional. They didn't require exhaustive logical proofs for life's value. Instead, they accepted existence as inherently meaningful, trusting implicitly in a greater order. Observing their calm acceptance of life's struggles and hardships, Tolstoy was moved deeply. Perhaps, he thought, the problem wasn't life itself. It was his reliance on reason alone to provide answers. Perhaps the key to fulfillment existed beyond human logic, beyond intellectual understanding, in something deeper, intuitive, and spiritual. This powerful realization shook Tolstoy to his core. For the first time, he questioned his fundamental assumptions about reality, logic, and existence. Maybe life's meaning wasn't something reason could ever fully grasp. Maybe his pursuit of meaning had been misguided from the start, rooted entirely in intellect and lacking spiritual depth. This marked a pivotal moment, a profound turning point in his journey. Tolstoy realized he had to abandon his purely rational worldview and open himself to a radically new perspective, one informed by faith, simplicity, compassion, and spirituality. This transition wasn't easy. Tolstoy was fiercely rational, skeptical, and analytical by nature. Letting go of rational certainty in favor of intuitive faith challenged his entire identity. Yet, deep down, he sensed he had uncovered something essential, something he had unknowingly searched for his entire life. Despite lingering doubts and uncertainties, Tolstoy finally saw a path forward, one offering genuine peace, purpose, and meaning. From that moment on, he embarked wholeheartedly on a new philosophical journey, one that would forever transform not just his life, but millions who followed after him. Driven by a desperate need for answers, Tolstoy first turned to science. He had always admired the clarity and precision of scientific thought, its promise to explain the world rationally and thoroughly. Surely, he believed, science could offer some relief from the crushing weight of his existential despair. He immersed himself deeply in the works of biology, physics, and astronomy, hoping to discover some hidden clue, a profound revelation that would give his life meaning. But as he dug deeper, his heart sank further into despair. Biology offered compelling explanations about evolution, natural selection, and the survival of species, but no sense of purpose, no justification for why humans existed. It provided the mechanisms, but left the purpose elusive and undefined. Astronomy, far from providing solace, offered only chilling realizations. As Tolstoy gazed into the endless expanses of the cosmos through the lens of telescopes and through the pages of scientific literature, he found himself confronting a vast, indifferent universe, an impersonal void stretching infinitely in every direction. Humanity, he realized, was just a tiny speck in this vast emptiness, insignificant against the immense backdrop of stars and galaxies. Science showed him the how, but remained silent on the more essential questions of why. Tolstoy reluctantly concluded that science, despite its brilliance, could never fulfill the profound, spiritual emptiness he carried within. Having exhausted science without resolution, Tolstoy shifted his gaze toward philosophy, hoping the great thinkers of the past might hold the answers he sought. He pored over countless volumes, engaging deeply with the ideas of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Kant, Schopenhauer, and Nietzsche. He admired their powerful insights, their elegant theories, and their dazzling intellectual rigor. Philosophy captivated him with its complex reasoning and its promise of wisdom. Yet as he moved deeper into the philosophical landscape, Tolstoy discovered not clarity, but confusion. Every philosopher he encountered had a unique perspective, each presenting their own interpretation of life's meaning. Some claiming existence had deep, intrinsic purpose, others asserting life to be inherently meaningless and absurd. The more Tolstoy read, the more bewildered he became. Philosophy seemed filled with endless contradictions, debates that spanned centuries without resolution. What began as stimulating soon became exhausting. He was trapped in a labyrinth of competing ideas. Philosophy, he concluded sadly, was intellectually exciting, yet practically empty. It provided fascinating questions, but never satisfying answers. Finally, with science and philosophy exhausted, Tolstoy reluctantly turned to religion. He was born and raised within the traditions of Russian Orthodoxy, yet had never fully embraced it. Now, humbled by his existential anguish, he returned to Christianity, approaching the Gospels with fresh eyes, free from church interpretations and theological dogma. As he read, the simple yet profound teachings of Christ deeply moved him. The messages of love, compassion, forgiveness, humility, and detachment from worldly possessions resonated powerfully. Here was something more profound than mere rational explanations, an ethical and spiritual path that spoke directly to the heart. But Tolstoy's restless curiosity drove him further. Christianity alone was not enough. He needed to test other spiritual traditions to see if perhaps they contained common truths. So he eagerly studied Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, and Taoism, meticulously examining their texts and teachings. Remarkably, a pattern emerged across these varied faiths. They all pointed toward transcending the ego, relinquishing material desires, and embracing simplicity, compassion, and service to others. Tolstoy felt deeply inspired by the universality of this spiritual wisdom. He saw how true inner peace might arise from stepping outside the confines of self-interest and pride, connecting instead with something larger and infinitely more meaningful. Deeply intrigued and now utterly compelled, Tolstoy decided he couldn't remain merely an observer. Philosophy and science had been passive intellectual pursuits, but religion demanded something more active, a lived experience. He chose to embark on an extraordinary experiment, radically reshaping his entire existence. Abandoning the luxuries and privileges of his aristocratic lifestyle, Tolstoy embraced simplicity wholeheartedly. He gave away possessions, chose humble clothing, and immersed himself in manual labor. More importantly, he committed his life to charity, dedicating himself fully to helping the poor, comforting the suffering, and living out the very principles he'd discovered across the world's religions. To his astonishment and relief, this profound transformation brought immediate peace. For the first time in decades, Tolstoy felt a genuine sense of contentment. Happiness, he finally realized, wasn't hidden in fame, fortune, or intellectual achievements. Instead, it emerged quietly from sincere human connections, generosity, compassion, and spiritual simplicity. It wasn't something discovered in rational arguments. It was something experienced in authentic acts of kindness and selfless love. Yet, this newfound clarity and peace brought consequences. Family and friends who knew Tolstoy only as the celebrated writer and respected aristocrat struggled to understand his sudden shift. To them, his new lifestyle seemed bizarre, irrational, even insane. They were shocked to see him reject wealth and privilege, abandoning comfortable certainty for the uncertainty of spiritual devotion. Tolstoy's peers openly criticized him, accusing him of madness, of betraying his class and his legacy. But these criticisms did nothing to deter him. He knew beyond doubt that he had found something genuine, something worth far more than social status or intellectual acclaim. Now, however, Tolstoy faced a new challenge. Having discovered this powerful spiritual truth, he wondered how to practically integrate it into a world built on wealth, power, and superficial success. Could his newfound beliefs survive the harsh realities of modern society? Could he truly live out these spiritual ideals without compromise? Tolstoy stood at the threshold of an even greater journey, realizing the true test lay ahead, not just in discovering wisdom, but in living it every single day. Ultimately, Tolstoy's greatest revelation didn't come from the towering stacks of philosophical books or abstract intellectual arguments. His profound discovery emerged quietly, almost invisibly, from carefully observing the humble lives of ordinary people. It came from watching the peasants, those who toiled tirelessly in the fields, who lived in modest homes, faced daily struggles, yet somehow exuded a serenity that Tolstoy had never felt himself. Despite poverty, hardship, and constant adversity, these simple people radiated a kind of happiness that seemed beyond comprehension to the wealthy and powerful. Unlike the intellectual elites who endlessly debated life's purpose, these peasants accepted existence as it came, finding their joy not in abstract thought or sophisticated theories, but in something far more tangible and meaningful. They experienced fulfillment through genuine human connections, through acts of compassion, in the love of family, the simple pleasures of shared meals, and the quiet dignity of honest labor. Their days were not consumed by philosophical dread. Instead, they were marked by small gestures of kindness, community support, and unwavering faith in something greater than themselves. Tolstoy saw clearly, perhaps for the very first time, that life's deepest meaning was not rooted in wealth, fame, or even intellectual brilliance. Those achievements, while celebrated and admired, were fragile and fleeting, incapable of offering lasting fulfillment. Instead, he realized, true purpose lay in love, compassion, and dedication to something larger and more meaningful than personal desires and ambitions. The secret of life, he understood now, was beautifully simple. Live to serve, love openly, and connect deeply with others. This understanding changed everything. It completely reshaped his worldview, his priorities, and his entire understanding of what it meant to be human. Suddenly, everything he previously valued, prestige, recognition, social status, felt empty and meaningless. Self-centered success, he saw clearly, led only to loneliness and despair. But love, the genuine, selfless, unconditional kind, had a power that no worldly accomplishment could match. Love alone could fill the emptiness that plagued humanity. Love alone could bring lasting peace to a troubled heart. Tolstoy did not hesitate to put this newfound insight into practice. This was no mere theory for him. It became his immediate way of life. Resolutely, he renounced his aristocratic privileges, luxuries, and comfortable existence. He traded his fine clothes for simple garments, his lavish meals for humble fare, and his prestigious social circles for companionship with the poor and disadvantaged. He embraced a life of humility and simplicity, working alongside peasants in the fields, dedicating himself fully to charity and compassionate service. Moreover, Tolstoy's vision of love and simplicity profoundly influenced his religious views. He became openly critical of formal religious institutions, particularly the Russian Orthodox Church, accusing them of hypocrisy and greed. He argued passionately for a form of Christianity that emphasized action over rituals, compassion over dogma, and genuine love over empty ceremonies. His bold stance cost him dearly. Tolstoy faced harsh criticism from religious authorities, eventually leading to his excommunication and relentless persecution. Yet, he stood firm, unwavering in his conviction that he'd found genuine spiritual truth. In his new life, Tolstoy took inspiration from spiritual leaders who embodied these principles in their actions, not just their words. He deeply admired Jesus Christ, whose teachings emphasized forgiveness, kindness, and humility, and who lived these truths through his selfless life and ultimate sacrifice. Tolstoy felt similarly inspired by Buddha, whose emphasis on compassion, simplicity, and non-attachment resonated profoundly with his own newfound philosophy. Later, Tolstoy's teachings would even inspire leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, who found in Tolstoy's vision the seeds of peaceful resistance and the courage to live compassionately. For Tolstoy, every action became an opportunity to put his philosophy into practice. He believed firmly that each act of kindness, no matter how small, held immense power, capable of transforming not only individual lives, but entire communities. His literature evolved alongside him, shifting away from grand tales of aristocratic drama toward powerful stories celebrating humility, compassion, and inner truth. Through novels, essays, and letters, Tolstoy tirelessly championed the ideals of simplicity and love, hoping to awaken society from its destructive obsession with wealth and power. Even as his actions shocked and alienated those closest to him, family, friends, fellow intellectuals, Tolstoy never wavered. He had tasted true peace, experienced authentic happiness, and seen clearly what genuinely mattered in life. The criticism he faced, the accusations of madness, and even persecution were powerless to sway him from his path. He had finally discovered genuine meaning, something infinitely more valuable than approval or social acceptance. Tolstoy's radical embrace of love, simplicity, and service wasn't just a personal transformation. It was a powerful challenge to the values and priorities of his time. It questioned society's unquestioned pursuit of material gain, the empty spectacle of wealth, and the superficial glamour of fame. He boldly argued that a life dedicated to others, filled with compassion, empathy, and sincere human connection, represented humanity's highest ideal. He reminded the world that true fulfillment wasn't something you could purchase, earn, or display. It was something you had to live every day, through choices rooted deeply in kindness and love. Tolstoy's discovery echoed far beyond his own lifetime, continuing to inspire countless individuals who would follow in his footsteps. His courageous shift from self-centered achievement toward a humble life of compassion continues to resonate profoundly today, reminding us that real happiness lies not in gaining, but in giving, not in achieving greatness, but in loving greatly. Tolstoy's philosophical awakening wasn't merely a shift in beliefs, it was a profound revolution in his very existence. Suddenly, the life he once cherished, one filled with luxury, comfort, and status, became utterly meaningless to him. Rejecting his aristocratic privileges, he deliberately chose a path of humility, simplicity, and deliberate poverty. Lavish dinners were replaced by modest meals, extravagant clothing exchanged for humble garments, and luxurious living quarters gave way to a modest room where simplicity reigned supreme. But this transformation came with a steep emotional cost. Family members and friends struggled deeply with his radical changes, unable to comprehend why a celebrated literary icon would willingly abandon prestige for a life of intentional hardship. Tensions grew unbearable, misunderstandings frequent, conversations fraught with frustration and confusion. Tolstoy's wife, Sophia, particularly suffered under these changes, feeling increasingly alienated from the husband she had known and loved. Yet, Tolstoy never wavered. He had discovered a truth he refused to relinquish. This deep inner shift didn't just redefine his personal life, it completely transformed his writing. Gone were the grand novels celebrating the aristocratic dramas and historical grandeur. In their place emerged powerful, introspective works that courageously challenged superficiality, vanity, and moral emptiness in society. Novels like The Death of Ivan Ilyich struck at the heart of human complacency, vividly depicting a man who only at his deathbed realizes he had wasted his life chasing shallow achievements. It was an unflinching mirror held up to society, demanding readers confront the uncomfortable truth of their own choices. Similarly, Resurrection, another profound masterpiece from his later years, passionately condemned the hypocrisy of social institutions, exposing the empty rituals of a society obsessed with appearances, yet lacking authentic compassion. Tolstoy used literature not just to entertain, but to provoke deep, spiritual reflection, urging readers toward empathy, simplicity, and genuine human connection. His pen became a relentless advocate, challenging the powerful, comforting the marginalized, and inspiring society toward a more meaningful existence. But Tolstoy's writings weren't limited to novels. He turned passionately to spiritual essays and philosophical treatises, pouring his heart and soul into works such as Confessions and The Kingdom of God is Within You. These writings became revolutionary manifestos, passionately promoting a Christianity free from institutional constraints, rituals, or power structures. Instead, Tolstoy emphasized a faith rooted deeply in love, compassion, and nonviolence. His ideas transcended borders, sparking inspiration in distant lands, resonating powerfully with future global leaders and social reformers. Indeed, Mahatma Gandhi openly acknowledged how deeply Tolstoy's vision shaped his own philosophy of peaceful resistance, becoming an essential cornerstone of India's independence movement. Tolstoy's commitment to these new ideals was unwavering, even as they led him toward isolation and persecution. Criticism intensified, social rejection increased, and pressure from authorities mounted. The Russian Orthodox Church publicly excommunicated him, branding him a heretic. The Tsarist government closely monitored his writings, viewing his calls for peace, compassion, and humility as dangerous threats to their power. But through it all, Tolstoy stood resolute. His determination only deepened as adversity grew, his conviction strengthened by each act of defiance against an unjust society. As Tolstoy aged, his dedication to living authentically only deepened, until at the age of 82, burdened by intensifying family conflicts and a relentless yearning for peace, he made the extraordinary decision to abandon his estate altogether. Quietly, under the cover of night, he left behind everything familiar, his home, family, and social obligations, to embark on a final journey in search of spiritual solitude. Traveling humbly, dressed simply, and free from fanfare, Tolstoy sought refuge from the pressures that had become unbearable. But this journey soon took a poignant and tragic turn. His frail health faltered along the way, forcing him to pause at an obscure railway station in Ostapovo. There, far from the grandeur of his aristocratic origins, he lay ill in a modest room, attended only by a handful of devoted friends and followers who truly understood the profound significance of his quest. As the world watched breathlessly, one of history's greatest literary figures faced his end with remarkable humility. Days later, Leo Tolstoy passed away quietly, peacefully, his death symbolizing not defeat, but the ultimate affirmation of a life courageously dedicated to truth. His death wasn't a moment of defeat. It was the ultimate affirmation of a life courageously lived. He left this world not surrounded by riches or glory, but embraced by an unshakable sense of fulfillment, born from having lived his truth fully, passionately, without compromise. Tolstoy's legacy transcended literature. He became a lasting symbol of spiritual bravery, a beacon for those who sought meaning beyond superficiality, a powerful reminder of humanity's enduring capacity for transformation and renewal. Today, the world continues to draw inspiration from Tolstoy's extraordinary journey. His fearless pursuit of authenticity, compassion, and humility remains a compelling challenge, urging each of us to question our own priorities and live more meaningful, compassionate lives. In his relentless search for truth, Tolstoy didn't just change his own existence, he profoundly influenced generations, leaving behind an enduring vision of what it truly means to be human. Leo Tolstoy's life, with all its profound struggles and courageous decisions, offers us powerful lessons that remain strikingly relevant today. Perhaps the most important of these is that external success, no matter how dazzling, can never guarantee internal peace. We live in a world that relentlessly promotes achievement, material possessions, status, and recognition as the ultimate markers of happiness. Yet Tolstoy's story reveals a deeper, uncomfortable truth. These achievements may bring temporary pleasure, fleeting comfort, or momentary pride, but genuine fulfillment cannot be purchased or earned through external accomplishments alone. True happiness, Tolstoy discovered, grows from within, cultivated by a sense of purpose, love, and genuine connection. Another profound lesson from Tolstoy's journey is the understanding that logic and reason, though powerful and essential, cannot fully answer the deeper questions of existence. Science and philosophy, with all their elegance and rigor, can explain how the universe operates, but they struggle to tell us why we matter within it. Our rational minds are extraordinary tools, yet they often leave us empty-handed when faced with life's deepest questions about purpose, meaning, and identity. Tolstoy teaches us that life's ultimate truths may lie beyond the grasp of reason alone, accessible only through intuition, faith, and spiritual insight. Yet the most powerful lesson Tolstoy offers us is this: life's meaning is not a hidden secret we must find, but rather something we actively create, moment by moment, through our choices, actions, and attitudes. True fulfillment emerges not from isolation, but from deep and authentic human connections rooted in love, compassion, and service to others. Tolstoy reminds us that each of us possesses the profound power to bring meaning into existence, by how we treat one another, by how we serve, and by how we share our lives. It is in this simplicity, this loving commitment to others, that real happiness takes root and blossoms. Tolstoy's journey also teaches us never to passively accept emptiness or dissatisfaction. His courage in openly questioning his privileged, comfortable existence, and choosing authenticity over social approval reminds us all that it is never too late to evolve, change, and seek deeper purpose. No matter our age, background, or circumstances, we always have the power to redefine ourselves, to choose authenticity over conformity, simplicity over superficiality, and compassion over self-interest. His story encourages us all to be brave, to continuously question and seek a life aligned with our deepest values, and to courageously embrace the discomfort that comes with meaningful change. In the end, Tolstoy's profound truth resonates powerfully across generations. Real meaning lies not in complicated theories, elaborate philosophies, or endless accumulation, but in living simply, lovingly, and compassionately toward others. His remarkable journey from emptiness to profound spiritual fulfillment invites us to reconsider our priorities, challenging us to rethink what genuinely matters. Tolstoy urges us to shift our gaze inward, to nurture our inner life, and to ground our happiness in meaningful human relationships and acts of service. Now, it's your turn. Which lesson from Tolstoy's incredible journey touched you most deeply? Have you, like Tolstoy, found yourself questioning the true meaning of your own life? Leave your reflections in the comments and specifically write this sentence as a commitment to action. I choose simplicity, love, and compassion. Your comment is a declaration, a personal step toward a more authentic and meaningful life. You're part of something meaningful here. You're part of Mosaic Mind.